Right, mate, it's Sean. This is a podcast for adults, so don't be a muppet. Take a break if you need one. Otherwise, I got what you need.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stitch of Fate, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. As always, I am your storyteller, Mike Martin, joined by my wonderful four players, Bub, Dot, Josh, and Mark. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Still won't get used to 2 internet names and 2 real names. It's very difficult sometimes. I'm excited to have Bub back. Welcome back, Bub. You missed
Thank you so much.
a fun little episode, but Duke will see the ramifications of such things as we go today.
I'm most certain.
Before we get going, as always, a huge thank you to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/podbynight. We wouldn't be doing season 2 without you. And if you want to see a little bit more one-shots, we have a brand new kind of mid-goal between our first big one and our second big one. Go take a look. And if you want all kind of extra goodies and a little color and tag in the Discord, that's where you can go support us.
We just launched our timeline.
We did, yeah. If you want to know when
you
people
can
were
see.
sired and when the coterie got together, that stuff was just released to Patreon, on top of other things like character sheets and all that goodness. So swing over there, and to those who are over there, thank you so much for the support. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. All right, I think that's it for normal announcements. If we're all ready, let's just rein it in, set the scene, and see what our coterie is up to. The noise we hear as the screen comes in is the definitive clicking of the back door to the Succubus Club. The camera sits at ground level as we see the feet and legs of 2 recently slain druggy bodyguards that Sean posted outside as they returned from their night of money-making after dealing with the mob for the Russians. An extra brick of cocaine went quite a long way and ended up netting our coterie a little bit of extra cash to play with at the end of all things. But the thud of the bodies is what breaks that tension, the closing of the door, and the very silent steps striding down the stairs into the basement. As the camera reaffixes itself at the base of those stairs and we see the silhouetted figure making their way down, walking into some light, we can now see who exactly is making their way down here in his dress attire, his polished shoes, his long, sleek black hair and a loose ponytail, and a sword, saber specifically, being resheathed behind him as the blood whipped off and onto the wall. Vera, Sean, and Max, may I please get wits awareness, as you are all currently in the blood room, standing near, well, except for Max. I think Max stepped out, but Sean and Vera should at the very least still be there.
1 success.
1 success.
1 success.
1 success. With 1 success, after having already accomplished what you did and having had the major discussions that you had, after the door opens and shuts, already pulls your attention forward. But hearing those footsteps, initially, Vera, or rather Sean, you think it's Duke. But the more you listen to the way the footsteps come down the stairs, there's a bit more speed to them, a bit more rapidity than how Duke typically slowly approaches. You all turn, curious as to who it may be, and there you see Kadir, the sheriff of New York, striding his way down those final steps and turning his way from the hallway into the blood room, where leaning nearby the prince is Sean and Vera over by a nearby wall, having just accomplished taking care of the Irish mob for the Russians. We're merely 30 minutes or so after that entire ordeal. What kind of expressions do we see on Vera and Sean's face as Kadir sharply turns into the room?
Well, I imagine if I was leaning on a wall, I'm not anymore.
Certainly, we see Vera immediately push herself up to attention.
Posture, yeah. And immediately, Kadir.
His stoic look changes none as he takes a few more larger steps into this blood room. What about Sean?
Sean's still leaning on the wall. He's looking a bit unimpressed, but is just he unfolds his arms and kind of spreads them in a welcoming, slightly sarcastic, where have you been kind of a way.
Kadir gives you a subtle nod, Vera, but not much more before he takes a few more steps and stops. He looks to Sean, looks to Vera, and simply asks, Max and Duke, where are they?
Max enters the room, sucking on a juice box full of blood.
Certainly, you hear the slurping coming from the noise of Max's mouth.
And sort of casually looks over and goes, hey, Sheriff.
And a big slurping noise as Kadir casually looks his way. Still noting a lack of Duke, however.
Duke is out on business.
It's in those moments, Duke, that the camera blurs up a level. As you round the corner to the back of the club, you see two bodyguards, or, well, you wouldn't necessarily know they're bodyguards. You see two of Sean's acquaintances lying on the ground. One run through very cleanly with what looks to be a blade as you easily walk over to them. The other one lacking any wounds, but as you reach down and you look at his body, you see a lack of blood. Looks like a kindred quickly made work of these two.
I think I would, with some haste, probably pull them into the club.
And we see as Duke grabs the wrists of these both bodies, dragging them into the back room, making sure no public eyes catch guard, as the back area of the club is strictly prohibited to those who live here or are privy to the truth of this club. And as they're drawn back and the door opens and shuts quietly, the camera goes back down. Kadir looks to the three of you as Vera says he's been out on business and says, then you're not being invaded and you're in no danger.
You're here, aren't you?
I dispatched of two strangers standing on the outside.
Oh.
You what?
Yeah, they were with us. Well, they were with Sean. They were with Sean, past tense, I guess.
Well, we were trying out
They're not
new
gonna be happy.
security measures, and it seems that they failed.
He looks to Sean and simply says, my apologies, Mr. What was your last name again?
Mr. Best, I guess. Have you tried knocking?
The prince resides within your club. I take no... I gamble not. Should strangers be on the outside looking armed that I don't recognize, my priority is the prince.
Gotcha. I'll remember that for next time.
He actually, ignoring that last line, walks by Vera and Sean. And as he's walking by, he's obviously making his way over to Prince Panhard's body. It's at that moment that Duke, you make your way, having stashed the bodies temporarily in a place out of sight, making your way downstairs to ensure everything's good. You actually do make your way at this point into the room, and you see Kadir making his way over to the prince's body, answering perhaps the first and most important question as to who and why there were bodies on the outside of the club.
And the exterior of the club is not open to the general public, or is it just an open alley?
The back entrance is well guarded. Walls, locked gates. That's not public area for them. The only public area is the front-facing part of the club, where those who are lining up or have VIP invitations are looking to get in. The back end of the club is secure.
Duke would come in and nod. If that sates his curiosity, then I think he's just probably going to wait.
You would catch Vera's eye, Max's, and Sean's, but Kadir has no notice, or at least doesn't turn to pay you any attention, as he finally takes his last step with the prince and drops to one knee to lower himself to more her level. You see as he places his left hand, index finger and thumb under her chin and rotates her neck very slowly either way, before touching, apologizing for having to do such a crude manner to a torpid kindred with such stature here in New York, and then goes about to check for wounds. As at this point, he stands after running his finger across where the wounds once were, cleaning up what little bits of vitae may have still been lingering. And he turns to the four of you, now seeing Duke and giving him a nod.
It's actually the five of us, because Max Jr. is here too. He said,
"And Max Jr. on your shoulder?"
Yeah, Duke hasn't seen Max Jr.
Not at all.
Is Duke familiar with the breed, the hairless breed, the Sphinx cat?
Yeah, I think he would probably know what it is. Probably not seeing one in a while, but I think he would be well aware.
It's one of them, but it looks a lot weirder. Like its ears seem even more pronounced. It seems even more wrinkly and weird looking, and it does have what you would describe as a scowl on its face.
I presume this is your son.
That's Max Jr. Vera was nice enough to acquire him for me. Eh?
As he reaches his large finger up to scratch the cat, Max Jr. leans into the finger, using his long nail as a place to rub and enjoy. You hear a loud purring emanating from this chest of this cat as its eyes close, and he very thoroughly rubs into Max.
I haven't seen you this happy in a while, Max.
Yeah, well, just be careful. He gets a little cranky sometimes if it's not me, you know?
It looks good on you, Maxwell. Carry it strongly.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, Kadir, there hasn't been a lot of progress since your last little visit here.
His head cocks to the side just ever so slightly when you speak to him, and then he, standing back at attention, he continues. It seems that our dear prince's wounds have completely healed themselves, and yet she still lies in torpor in your basement. Curious. And perhaps problematic.
I presume it's from internal damages.
He, his eyes dart around as he clearly begins to think a little while. Perhaps.
Yeah.
And he kind of gazes back to her.
I reckon it's some kind of, magic bullshit.
Then he turns back over and gives a more of a understanding, deeper nod to Max. That is my concern. He shakes his head. While blood sorcery is not something I'm entirely unfamiliar with, it is certainly out of my specialty. Though,
You want to ask
Oh, go ahead.
You want to ask the Tremere, what was her, Primogen? Regent? I don't care. Aisling. She was pretty buddy with Larson.
He does take a moment as an awkward silence falls over the room. It presents a problem. Informing the Chantry as to what we need this information for, as they undoubtedly will ask, will break down the truth of the matter and perhaps send an unnecessary ripple through Camarilla stability here in New York. We're already at rather high tension with the Anarchs here, keeping them at bay.
Shouldn't be a challenge. I can find my way back into the Chantry and eventually find myself a new contact, as mine was previously dispatched, courtesy of, well, Larson and the woman.
The question is, who can we trust?
Yourselves and me.
Well, we seem to be a bit lacking in knowledge on such magical endeavors.
He nods. It is impossible for me to approach the Tremere Chantry looking for some information without giving them reason. He looks at the Duke then, but if you're saying you have an inn, perhaps it's a good place to start.
I had an inn, but it was removed. However, I am more than capable of continuing my side work of pushing numbers and running books to make those look up and above board. This is how I engage in my feeding style, after all. Small favors here and there, but everyone needs reliable work.
Agreed. I also come with a proposition. As I was out over the past few nights looking and contacting my sources, got word of a small pack of thin bloods that seemed to have popped up out of nowhere here in New York. His gaze just goes to each one of you individually.
Well,
Out in the boroughs.
do I know them?
He raises an eyebrow. Do you?
You see an intense thinking face on Sean.
Geez, Sean, I never seen you make that face before.
Like, I've met a couple of Thin Bloods in my time. I'll say it. We're basically instant best friends, right? Because we're from the same like clan and stuff. That's how that works.
And what do we want with these thin bloods?
Yes, what is the importance now of all times?
A few nights after the incident with Larson, Mia, a patch of thin bloods popping out of nowhere when we should have tabs on all of them. Openly feeding in a club and causing rumors as to those that are going there getting sick. Needs to be taken care of one way or another. There may just be a connection to Larson and Mia there, so I figure I'd offer to you first, before I take care of it myself.
I imagine you'd like us to assure this is a clean matter.
He turns his whole body to you at this point. Investigate what you will. I'm aware of your skill set, Vera. Either way, whether they're attached or not, they're masquerade breaches, performing multiple masquerade breaches in one small building. Wherever they came from, clearly nobody told them the rules, and nobody was given permission to sire in the first place.
What is the location of this club?
He gives you a location within the boroughs.
Are there any significant domain holders of this area?
He thinks for a moment. No one in particular is territory. It may belong to. No, it's on the border. It's on the border of Anarch territory and Camarilla territory. No major kindred lays claim to that particular club, though it technically falls under like the giant domain of. It looks like it's the Toreador.
Okay.
But as you ask, that's the answer you get.
Is this of an urgent matter?
The longer they go, the more of a risk they are exposing us, but because of their potential importance, a little leeway is given here. It doesn't need to be taken care of in 1 or 2 nights. There's greater matters to attend to. If they are attached to Mia or Larson in some way, whether direct or tangential, it's worth investigating before eliminating.
Right.
I don't suppose there's any leads on a better hiding place for the prince over here? I mean, I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to keep a lid on this, and it's going to look pretty bad if she gets discovered in our haven.
He does look back behind him over his shoulder at the prince, clearly thinking for a while and then turning back. For reasons that I believe are the best, as he looks to Vera as he says this, I truly believe your club is currently the safest place to keep her.
Oh boy, all right.
Well, to assure this is the case, we're going to get some fresh security. Maybe don't kill them right away next time.
I'll understand that I am now expecting security at the door.
Yeah, and it probably won't be a bunch of skinny junkies this time.
He just kind of gives Max a look, but says nothing. Beyond that, I'll continue my own investigations. I'll return in 4 nights.
And with it, no offense, would it be safe to expect you to dispatch of these fresh cadavers you've left us with?
Now after you kind of bring it up and explaining the situation, he actually does nod.
Actually, Sean, if you don't mind, kind of in a waste not, want not frame of mind, I got a bit of an interruption in my supply, so, they're not using that blood anyway, right?
One of them is completely devoid.
Oh. Well, the other guy's got some blood in him, though, right?
As far as I can tell, yes.
Yeah, again, Sean, I hope you don't mind.
You know, it's a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's a weird thing to ask.
Hey, it's only weird if you make it weird. Don't make it weird, Sean.
No.
Don't make it weird.
You go for it.
All right.
Go for it, Max.
All right. Max is
Deer at this point, having see this interesting bicker of what to do with the bodies, looks over to the coterie. I must make my way out tonight. I appreciate your time and eternally grateful for the security you allow the Prince of New York. I'm sure she will look gratefully upon your favors.
I look, eyes dart to Sean. Yes, let us hope.
And Kadir strolls out. Afterward, you hear his footsteps go up the stairs, and as the door opens and shuts, you're left with the 5 of you. 6 of you with the cat down here.
You know, when she wakes up, she's going to want to party with me.
Yeah, she's gonna want to do something with you, but I don't know if partying is gonna be what it is.
You ain't heard the stories.
Duke, can I get an intelligence finance roll while they chat?
You certainly can. You said intelligence.
I think Vera's so embarrassed right now.
Finance.
She can't see straight. This is all too much for her to handle socially speaking.
Ho, 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 ho.
Wowzers.
That's 7, 8 successes total.
successes.
With a crit, not a hunger crit either. So it's a very clean, beautiful crit. Duke was gone handling his own interests. Well, interest for the coterie as well, but the initial interest of finding papers within a lupine that he believed truck that belonged to the mob. Unsurprisingly, Duke. Going through them initially, it seems to be deals, paperwork, money numbers, all the stuff that you would expect of anybody who's good at his job to do what he's doing. But the further you dig, when you see these payments going out and seeing where the money's dispersed, there's one that doesn't seem to fit. He's got all of his underlings that he's paying, and clearly a couple of shell companies that belong to the higher-ups, the boss and the like. But there's a genuine charity that he seems to donate to monthly. And as Duke spent some time putting research into this charity and where it's from, you could find nothing on it. It simply is like a plant to the trees type of charity that has no source, no website, no contact to get a hold of. Just seems to be a place he sends some cash every month. And a good 10 grand every month. Not enough to pull too much suspicion from the millions that he's clearly making, but enough. You, as Duke, might have your suspicions as to what that is. If you as a player have any questions, ask. I can give you some werewolf lore if that's what you're looking for.
I'm definitely interested in discovering more, particularly since I can't seem to find like a website or
Sure.
any information on it.
Duke's assumption would be either a clan or a roaming gang or maybe even a full cairn out there. And if that's true, it could be he's funding a cairn through mob money. And a cairn, for those who are not in the know, are a group of werewolves and mortals all working toward the same goal. As far as you know, trying to protect the kindred, trying to protect the earth or something, and they see all of you as a disease, as a cancer. If that's where you're sending money to. You also know there are werewolves that serve the worm. There are werewolves out there that are not good. But either way, there's a fishy 10 grand being sent to somewhere that is not really traceable.
Sure.
Immediately. That was just one night of research, and you critted, so.
I'm gonna file this away for later. I think
Sure.
I'd like to seek out my police contact,
Yeah,
see what
that
I can
makes
dig up
sense.
through him.
Sure. So, the manila folder stays with you, I imagine, neatly organized. And as Kadir leaves, I'm just giving you kind of that background information as to what you were doing. You all find yourselves in the room with the prince together. You have Tommy the Mouse beaten and chained in a room nearby. He can barely speak. And you had ideas as to what to do with him, Vera, but now you have your entire coterie here to have that discussion.
Forgive my absence. I was following lines in the sand, discovered a few things in our paper trail.
Oh. Anything of interest?
Our newfound lupine friend is functionally millionaire and seems to be funneling some private funds to some locations or institutions that are immediately unidentifiable. I have my assumptions, but I'd like to verify that personally.
Vera and Max would also have their assumptions. Sean, on the other hand, would not really know about cairns or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
we
Sean,
just-
you watch. Sorry, not to interrupt, but I just want to set the scene a
No.
little bit more. Sean, you kind of watch as he says that. Vera get like this look of concern, maybe not concern, but she loses herself in thought. Max's eyebrows raise a little bit, but Max is Max.
Well,
You do see Max, however, when at mention of the lupine, he brings out a knife that you haven't necessarily seen him use before. It appears to be silvered, and he's playing with it.
The finger, just fingering the tip of your finger with the pointed edge of a silver knife.
Well, it seems we have made enemies with, well, a potential problem. We can't leave Tommy here. I'm sure they can follow his stench.
So, what do we do with the mouse?
I say we give him to the Russians.
Fair enough.
They can do whatever they like with him.
Oh, and they will. Believe me, they will.
And maybe in return we can borrow some favor. Sean, as much as I love to see Kadir cut your friends down, I feel like maybe we need some beefier security? A little brawn at the front door?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Speaking of Sean's friends, I'll go take care of that right now. Don't worry, I'll be very respectful.
Yeah, whatever, Max.
Max turns to leave the
Enjoy.
room, and the cat gives Sean kind of a low meow before turning back and rubbing up against Max's cheek as he leaves.
Duke, while you were out, Sean proved to be quite the salesman.
I'm listening.
Well, Sean,
Big bag of Coke, right? Poof! Disappears. Magic trick. It's all over the place, mostly up people's noses by this point, I imagine. But in exchange for this magic trick that I show a lot of people, we got a lot of cash. And I just take out a wad of bills from like a backpack near me.
I was hoping maybe
Well
you
done,
could count
Copperfield.
it. Yes, I was hoping maybe you could count it. I told Sean he could keep half. Since Tommy caused so many problems and we have officially lost a buyer for our art, it seems like maybe we should just take Tommy's drugs and sell them in place of that. So I had Sean hit the streets.
Don't worry about it, Duke. All of my washout crewmates, they're always paid up before this part, so you don't have to cut them in.
2 of them now don't even need their share.
Oh, that's a good point. I can
Sean.
go get their stuff.
I'm a lot less worried about it than you might think. I know where one falls, 2 more will sprout back up. It's the nature of the drug trade.
I could probably find a few more people, but when people just kind of disappear, that's when everyone gets jumpy. I'll calm them down somehow.
Drugs.
Drugs.
Certainly. Leaving that kind of in the air as Sean speaks that into existence, I guess. The question is, who is bringing Tommy the Mouse? How many of you are going to go?
Well,
When?
I will have. Is it a new night?
Nope, we are still on that same night. We will have to rouse the next evening still.
Speaking in the manner of future clientele, Vera, if it is not so much to step bounds here, if I can make a recommendation, there is a fostering of a new mob, or at least something of which I've seen relocate from new locations. The Irish mob is bounding. Something not to ignore. It just might mean more funds for us, future buyers.
Don't the mob stay out of the drug business? Wasn't that Tommy's mistake?
Not all mobs operate the same way. They have core tenets and values of which they follow, but the Irish are looking to make a move and stake claim in New York.
Well, where we lost the Italians, we've gained the loyalty of the Russians. So I don't imagine they're going anywhere, and we can look to future endeavors. I hate to say I don't know anything about the Irish, or how to even go about proposing such a business ordeal.
A bold and bloodthirsty syndicate. I believe that they're looking to propagate. Yes.
That does bring up the option to Vera. Certainly, buying the loyalty of the Russians by handing over Tommy would do wonders. But by all accounts, you have done what the Russians asked. They don't know you have Tommy the Mouse. You could always hand Tommy the Mouse over to the Irish. A power play for both. Both are serviceable. Both are great options.
Do the Irish have a standing quarrel with the Italians?
Standing quarrel with fucking everybody.
Well, Vera, I think it's safe to anoint this with the fact that the Irish have issues with anyone that isn't Irish. They were a bit more prominent in the 70s and the 80s with the Westies, but since then it's
So they're going to be
changed
okay with me
dramatically.
waltzing in there and drop...
I will say they don't like the English either, so I might stick clear.
All right, fine. What do you think? A power play? We could just stick with what we've got from the Russians. We promised them, we fulfilled. We don't technically owe them anything.
I simply think that we should make the move with the Russians as immediately predetermined and then extend an invite to our private cabaret, a showing of sorts for our paintings, if you will. Money has to move. We cannot rely entirely upon the Russians. There are more drugs than cocaine in New York.
It seems much riskier to wait to find a Italian mob to sell Tommy off to. I don't even know. Do we even know who to contact to do that?
You know their territory. You know where their territory is. While you have nobody to contact, you know where you could go to get attention. Again, this is not me saying this is what you should do. I'm just saying it is another option.
It's true.
Max walks by with a drained corpse over one shoulder, wrapped up in a tarp or something, and like a bucket of blood that he's getting ready to transfer into smaller. Yeah.
I kind of go to the door. Max, how do you feel about the Irish?
He stops short, and you can hear the crumpling of the tarp as the body kind of flops up against his back.
What, you mean as a people? They're good.
I mean, as the mob.
Oh, you're talking what to do with Tommy? I don't know. I say we. If you really want him to suffer, I say we give him to the Russians. You know.
I do. Thank you, Max, for your clarity.
And Max begins to walk off again as the crunching of the tarp begins with each step.
Oh, yeah.
The sloshing of the bucket.
Oh, yeah, them Russians, they always up with that Baba Yaga bullshit and whatnot. So, yeah, the Russians, for sure.
Baba Yaga is terrifying. Vera goes, let's go see the Russians. We're going to deliver Tommy.
Sean thinks for a moment, are they talking about that movie?
Is it with the guy that kills people?
Yeah, and the dog?
Yeah.
What did Vera decide? My apologies.
We're going to deliver Tommy to the Russians. I think Duke's right. We
Wonderful.
just extend an invitation. If we want the Italians to do good business, well, no better business than a proper invitation. So, for now...
Wonderful.
to
Vera
the Russians.
obviously will be escorting Tommy. Anybody going to go along with Vera, or is Vera going to go alone?
Max will go as invisible backup, I think.
Invisible bodyguard. Perfect.
He is going to drink his fill of the blood and then decant it into his little mini fridge as well, into some smaller bottles.
Wonderful. We're going to do this the next evening, as this all kind of took place at the end of the tail end of next evening. So let's everybody rouse check to wake.
Boom.
Successful.
Sean, no
Vera.
hunger. Duke, hunger. Vera, no hunger. Max, no hunger. Just Duke gets a little hungrier. Does that put you at 2, Duke?
Yes.
And question, if I freshly feed, will my hunger go down to 0?
The only way you can go to hunger 0 is by killing a mortal while you feed on them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So as a
you're
bagger,
always at 1.
I tend not to do that anyway.
Yeah, you typically do not go below 1 unless you go out of your way to murder somebody and drain them and imbibe their soul. So, with that said, on this evening, as the coterie comes together once more, we'll gather. Would Vera be okay with the coterie gathering in your haven outside of Tommy's door?
Oh, yes.
So as the night begins and things are kind of rolling, the coterie all makes their way outside the door, the steel door that is shut and locked from the outside. In the other side, we know Tommy hangs from chains, unable to get comfortable. Been there for about 2 nights now. The previous night, Max laying into him, so heavily so that he could barely even put words together with the swelling in his mouth and his missing teeth. I don't need the information anymore. You have better use for him. And besides, Duke found out more useful things about them than he could ever give you. Then later that night, the coterie finds themselves not in the Succubus Club any further, but a part of town they rarely frequent, though I imagine out of the 4 of them, Vera would be the one that goes quite often. To a 3-story club, well taken care of, very busy with lines that wrap around the block, that belongs to the Russians specifically, by the name of Propaganda. The front door isn't where you're willing to go, nor is it particularly that building. It's the building next door, where the Russians count their money, and where their real business takes place, that the coterie, though only 3 visible, head over to. How exactly would you transport Tommy the Mouse?
Vera would have John drive them there. We have a car. So Tommy is in the trunk where he belongs.
Unconscious?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how much blood he's lost over the last few nights.
Enough. He's still alive, is he not? As far as you know. So as you arrive
feel
then...
pain.
Yeah, he still makes like weird grunting sounds when I smack him around. So yeah, he's alive.
Exactly. As you kind of give him a bop, and he's like, he's alive, no problem. This other building, tucked behind the club, is a small 1-story brick building that majority of the business is done in the basement. The back door is a sealed, solid door with those little slots at the very top where someone could slide it open, take a look who's there, and slide it shut. You've been here, Vera, 1 time, and only 1 time, many, many years ago. You were simply doing a run for the Camarilla. They had made a deal with the Russians for something, and you were bringing a bag of money. You dropped it off, and were not given anything, and you left. It was clean, it was quick, and that's how you like to do business, and that's how they like to do it. So when you approach this door, it's on the back of the building. I imagine Vera's the one that walks up to it. Last time you just banged it a couple of times. Do you do the same thing here?
I imagine they're going to be a little bit more high alert. So it's a very quaint knock, just a little rap tap tap.
A little rap tap tap as the 3 of you watch. And Vera, what are you wearing this evening? As you're not on murder business this time around.
That's true. I'm not on murder business. I imagine whatever I got up that day and wore to the club. Maybe today I'm in pants. Ooh, leather pants. And big boots.
Big, tall, high heel boots, keeping you on point at all times. And very shortly after, maybe 2 seconds after your quick rat-tat-tat, the metal slat slides open aggressively. Shink! And then you see eyes looking around, then before they dart to you, Vera. And as they look at you, just a muffled, gruff voice on the other side. What do you want?
We've brought a gift.
He says nothing and looks around. Do you have somebody bring out Tommy?
Yeah, I just kind of stepped inside. I imagine you can see the car with the trunk behind us.
Into it, yeah, and you got the red brake lights that are still on, illuminating this back area.
I just grabbed Tommy's hair.
And as you grab his hair and lift his head up from the trunk, you see the eyes look from you to him. There's a couple beats of silence before you just the thing shuts, and you hear the loud lock unlock before it pulls out with a small squeak. You have a man with an AK-47 kind of leveled at you. You know that this is security, just precautions, as he opens up just a little wider and he gives you a nod to like bring him in.
Imagine John backs the car like into the...
Right up against the door, so there's very little wiggle room, so even if he does wake up for some reason and make a run for it, he really can't go anywhere, and any eyes that see back here are only the ones on the inside of the building, the trunk thing being flipped open keeps a nice little security, a nice little blanket of security there. Shortly after, a couple of thugs from inside this building actually walk over, one with a pistol drawn, the other one with bare hands. And they quickly grab him and start dragging him out very forcefully out of the trunk. They do it head first, and they kind of just drop his head on the ground as they reach for his legs, and then just start pulling him.
Virgo's careful with the goods. They haven't even made it where they're supposed to go yet.
The one who's carrying him just grunts at you as he continues to drag Tommy nonchalantly across the concrete back room down to some stairs where
I followed the whole. I imagine we follow the whole way.
Yep, the other
right?
guard is standing on the other side of the body where he could help. Instead, he just has a pistol trained on the unconscious body. And Vera strides right behind him. Duke and Sean following. I know Max is there. He's just invisible and can't be seen. Actually, if you are doing your invisibility power, I do need a rouse check from you. So you, the being able to move while invisible counts as a rouse. Yep.
Yeah, I'm moving around, so.
Yep. Let's give me a rouse. Okay, you get a little hungrier. But you're there, nearby Vera, probably than the one closest to her, followed by Duke and Sean in whatever order they feel comfortable with. You go down a long flight of stairs to another locked steel door. Another banging, but this time around there's no steel slot. It cracks open a bit, and the guys say something to each other in Russian. Vera, you understand. And he simply says, "We got the rat." And the guy laughs, and he just says, "Hell yeah." Door gets pulled open. And they start dragging in Tommy the Mouse. The guy who was on the other side of the door gives him a swift kick in the ribs just for good measure as he gets brought over. Tommy doesn't actually grunt. You do hear air escape, though, as he gets kicked. And there's a little metallic kind of dog-sized bar cage over in the corner of this room where there's a few people by plastic folding tables counting money with machines. They bring him over to that, and they open it. It's a top opener. And they both, with a little bit of have to lift him and kind of just toss him into the cage and slam the top shut. A deadbolt goes around it. They lock it, and then they give another deadbolt just in case. One dude turns and spits on him before turning back. There's a couple of chairs. They're both just folding chairs. And the guy with the AK-47 who was dragging him down actually just waves at the chairs with his rifle. Take a seat. He'll see you in a little while.
It's a folding chair?
It's a folding chair, absolutely. As you kind of take it in, this place is covered with a thick layer of cigarette smoke. It hangs and lingers in the air, and over by the lights in the ceilings, you can watch as the smoke itself dances and swirls throughout. Your eyes kind of mesmerized by how beautiful it can be in a weird way. And the whole time, you just hear the machines as it counts bills over and over again. And other tables, there's weighing of cocaine and other drugs. There's probably a good, 10 or so Russians in this basement counting money and drugs. Not a huge operation, but silence lingers, I imagine, then. A quiet waiting.
I have a question. Did Vera want us to deliver the drugs to the Russians?
Well, we did until we sold them. And the money's now in your pocket, so I suggest you don't mention it.
Okay, I thought there was still some drugs left, but
how much? How were there drugs left? I thought he's. No, that's right.
I was gonna say, I thought what you did was gave him extra while you kept one brick for yourself, and then and which you sold because it's premium cocaine, and the rest you wanted to bring back.
That's right. So I imagine that's also in the trunk.
Sure.
That we haven't moved out yet.
I imagine it's in a suitcase or something. That's just
that's
not
that's
easily
a sweeten
to tell.
To deal. That's the sweeten to deal. The deal
Sweeten
type
the deal
situation.
up a little bit. Sure.
So.
Sure. So time passes then. Moments turn to minutes, turn to an hour, before eventually a familiar-looking gentleman walks out of one of the back rooms. The one that you met at the deal. He strides forward stoically and silently in a well-tailored suit, and tucked into his pants pocket, you can actually see the outside of a 9mm pistol hanging out well-maintained, not in gruff condition like the AK-47s you see and the other pistols that others are carrying. There's actually, as he gets closer, you all can see some engraving of some sort actually on the pistol. If you care to see if there's any specific engraving, it is a wits awareness. But otherwise, you just genuinely catch an engraving on the hilt of the pistol.
I don't think Vera would care much.
Okay, no problem.
Max is just invisible and hanging out, so he might as well take a look.
I was about to say, that seems... Oh, hey, Sean, okay.
He could probably actually get pretty close.
Let me know what your successes are.
4 successes.
Okay. On what you actually see is a dragon, but not just like a dragon's neck. It's actually circling around. What's that building in Russia? The one with the kind of cool rounded tops. Looks like a Hershey Kiss. God damn it.
Kremlin.
The Kremlin. Yeah, the Kremlin. It's a dragon that actually is wrapping around the entire Kremlin up to the top, and at the very top it sits, and That's as much like as you get close enough, and it just sits at the very top with its mouth open as though it's to breathe fire, but there is no engraving of fire coming out of his mouth. As he strides past Max without even realizing that he's there and walks directly up to Vera, the one he dealt with directly the very first time. He sees Vera. I imagine you stand as he approaches. And as he walks within 6 inches of you and he stops, he sees you and gives you an up and down that is both a mixture of just assessing a threat and taking in how beautiful you are. Before he looks over to his right into the cage where Tommy lies, and you actually catch the slightest smirk crawl across the corner of his mouth. And he turns back to you, nodding his head.
In Russian, I'll probably say, I thought, sure, I could clean up this mess, or I could offer you a gift. He absconded with some of the drugs as well. Those are in the trunk of the car.
His eyebrows raise as you mention that you also have brought the drugs. And he replying in Russian. You're the only one in this coterie that actually speaks Russian, right? Nobody else understands.
Probably, yeah.
Max might have a few words
Here and there.
from his time in the war. But
From the
that's
war, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you probably pick up tiny little common words that you've caught here and there, but nothing that really puts into context the conversation that they're having. And he said,
Max has TV Russian, Tovarish.
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And he simply looks to you as he has that smile creeps across the corner of his mouth. He looks back to you, continuing the smile. Above and beyond, you have our gratitude.
Yes. I was hoping to have more than that.
He stands upright, not in a defensive or offended manner, but you have his attention.
Vera kind of gestures to herself up and down. Clearly, I'm incapable of protecting myself. And the club is in need of some new chiseled jaws to hang around on the outside. As much as I very much enjoyed watching Tommy beat to a bloody pulp, it also drew some attention to us. And since we have rightfully helped you, I thought maybe with enough liquid cash, and Vera slides out a large roll of bills, we could consider a trade for some of your more brutish types. And she kind of looks around the room.
And as you look around the room, you hear a slight chuckle escapes his lips. Yes, well, as I said, above and beyond security measures for your club, it's the least we could do for bringing us the rat and the things he took from us.
Before she puts the money in his hand, right before she kind of pulls it back, and she says, I cannot promise their safety.
He the smirk disappears, and he just has a kind of this calm, collected look. Is that not part of the job?
Good answer. And I put the cash right back in his hand.
And as you do so, he very delicately folds it between his index and middle finger, tucking it in an inner pocket of his jacket. And when would you like this security?
Well, I'd say by the end of the week. Friday night is our busiest night, and we've got some business to attend to before then anyways.
Again, he just gives you an understanding nod before turning to one of his guards, giving him a snap as they come running over. He whispers something very quickly to him before he scampers off. It will be taken care of, Miss Volkov.
Thank you. And assure Tommy, suffers, please.
On your behalf, I'll ensure it makes it double.
Vera just kind of nods, almost in a very thankful way, and she kind of goes over to the cave, and you probably hear her nail tink, 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 tink down the metal, and she says, Tommy.
You see him stir very, very lightly.
Yeah, I kind of look down on him, and I go, Tommy.
Again, a mild groan, but nothing more.
You should have accepted the dance.
And Vera stares at him for a while as she says that. And you hear the footsteps of dress shoes behind you as the thick Russian accent comes through once more. A pleasure doing business with you, Vera Volkov. Always.
Yes. As always. And until next time.
And as she says, until next time, it's cuing the camera it too fades along with the conversation with with Vera and this rather familiar-looking Russian speaking to each other in their own native language. And we'll see each other next week as we pick up with the investigation of a batch of Thin Bloods somewhere in the burrows. Goodbye, everybody.
Oh, before you go, do Vera a little favor, would you? Break out that Masquerade page in your pocket and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Pod by Night or Stitch of Fate. Make sure to leave us a little 5-star rating and review, would you? And if you don't, well, I guess I'll just have to send Max after you.